power of order today. So we're working our way through all the 12 powers, and then it'll take us, probably a year to do that. We're doing like one per month.
Mm-hmm.
We're following the order of the book Divine Audacity. You will find in different places where the 12 powers are presented, you'll see different orders of the powers, but since we're studying this book, we're going to use the order that's in this book. And just a quick review that the 12 powers are kind of a teaching set that was developed by Charles Fillmore. And it's the 12 powers are a set of principles or divine ideas, and on a personal level, kind of here now in the 21st century, we talk about them as capacities or faculties or inherent abilities that we have, so that we can kind of bring it into our daily lives and kind of out of the realm of just metaphysical thought, which is all in your head, we want to kind of bring it into our lives. There is a color associated with each of the 12 powers. So the color for the power of order is an olive green. And I would wear some of that, but I don't have any. Actually, now that I think of it, now that I'm here, it's like, oh, wait a minute, I probably have a scarf I could have grabbed. But so it's just something that you can do if you, as we talk about order, if you're like, oh, I could really use a little bit more of this in my life. You can just kind of, add that color into your world in various places, and that might help you kind of vibe with it some more. Also, Charles Fillmore locates each one of the powers in the body at a certain place, and the power of order is located at your navel. So it's very close to where the power of wisdom is located. So when you think about listening to your gut instinct, your power of order is right in that area, kind of resonating. And if you think about just the processes that happen in the body there of digestion, where basically your body is kind of sorting out like, these are things that we can use as fuel, and these are things we can let go. There's your body, kind of conducting order for you. I have to admit that when I think of order, I actually think of something that makes me giggle a lot, and I have to get past that before I can. So have you ever seen a video of when they're having a rough day in the House of Commons in British Parliament? Have you ever seen this? I have. There are some really funny events out there where the speaker in the House of Commons is calling for order. And there are some videos out there where they kind of, do a series of clips where it's like, order, 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 order. And so that's the first thing that I think about when I think of order. And then I have to kind of work my giggles out and then go forward from there. So I thought while I worked my giggles out, I would invite the Reader's Theater to come forward. Now I see one of the actors, but I do not.
We have a video.
You have a video?
Yes.
Okay.
One of our
Still recovering from her.
Okay, I was wondering about that.
Yes.
So apparently we have a video of some Reader's Theater.
One of our starlets had
Yes.
surgery. Yes.
Yes, wonderful. Good to know. All right then. Well, let's take it away with the Reader's Theater.
Is everything okay? Yes, but no, actually. Is there anything I can do to help? No. Well, maybe. Did you lose something? Yes. Well, I think so. Phone? Keys? Puppy dog? No. Well, actually, I have lost my power of order. Excuse me? My power of order. I can't do anything anymore. I can't find my power of order. Okay. Is there anything I can do to be helpful? Would you maybe like to tell me more? Well, usually I take the first step which leads to the second step, and then the third and the fourth, and then everything proceeds smoothly according to plan until I get something done.
Okay, and what's it like now?
Well, now I have no idea what to do next. I tried to make a list, I tried to line everything up, I tried to plan for all contingencies, and I can't do it. I've lost my power of order. I'm like a dog without a bone or a yo-yo without a string.
Oh my goodness. Did anything happen to bring this about?
Yes! For some reason, I started feeling comfortable. And then I had this crazy thought that maybe I should just relax. Relax! Can you believe it? And now it's like an idea has been planted in my brain and I just can't get it together anymore.
Well, let's wait a minute. Rather than plant it in your brain, maybe you just uncovered an idea you already had.
I'm sorry. Who are you?
It doesn't matter. Here's a question. How did you get here?
I drove my car. What's your point?
Did you come across that neighborhood party that has the street closed on the next block over?
Yes.
And yet, here you are.
Well, yeah, I just took a right, went up one street, and came down the other side.
Exactly. And what you used to do that is your power of order.
What?
Your power of order. It enables you to adjust and sequence and organize.
I didn't make a list. I didn't line things up. I didn't make a plan. I'm just sitting here feeling relaxed or something weird like that.
Well, see, order can be easygoing. It doesn't have to be strict or rigid. In fact, when you play it right, the power of order flows nice and smooth as you adjust your way through the detours of life with confidence and grace.
Maybe in your world.
And while we're at it, let me just point out that, in fact, it's not actually possible to lose your power of order. It's with you all the time, whether you use it a little or use it too much. If you didn't have your power of order, you'd put on your shoes before you put on your socks.
Come on, we all know socks go on first. I don't need a list for that.
Exactly.
Who did you say you were?
I didn't. How do you feel?
Annoyed. Relaxed.
Exactly. Get used to it.
Ha!
Exactly.
Yay, bravo. Oh,
All right. Cheers to Natalie and Judy.
bravo, you guys.
Yes, well done. I hope that Judy's watching online.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
That was a lot of fun, wasn't it?
Yes, very good.
So, Reader's Theater is a ministry that I've done for more years than I can remember. So, you know, that's like a glimpse into how my brain works. So, is it possible for you to lose your power of order?
No, not according to that,
No.
no.
No, it's not. All the 12 powers are like innate capabilities that we have. The question is like, how are we using them? Because we can sort of misuse our powers, or we can use them productively. So today we're going to talk a little bit about how we use our power of order in our life and in our affairs, and we'll talk about how we use our power of order in our consciousness. So, order tends to be perceived as a pretty structured kind of thing, right? Wouldn't you say?
Yes.
So, I always like to kind of go to Merriam-Webster and see, like, what is the definition of this? And the definition there on Merriam-Webster has to arrange or regulate, or it uses order as in to give a command or something. All of that is fairly structured, right? But when we're talking about our power of order, as in the 12 powers, I like to reference this book called Power Up by Paul Hasselbeck and Cher Holton. And how they define it is order is the ability to organize, sequence, balance, and adjust. So all of those are fairly accessible notions, right? And let me read a section out of this book where they kind of describe how we use it on a daily basis. And again, all of this is stuff that you recognize as things that you do in your life. The ability of order is the ability to organize and shows up in our lives in the way we organize our living space, work, files, lives. We use it to sequence a series of activities to reach a goal or schedule the classes we need to complete a degree or even arrange the ingredients we put into a recipe. We use it to make plans as well as to adjust those plans according to what we encounter along the way. So we can recognize that as all of that as things that we do on a regular basis. Now, all of the material on the 12 Powers goes all the way back to Charles Fillmore. And he first started publishing things about the 12 Powers around 1920. And then eventually the book came out. This is my copy, which is becoming very well weathered. And this actually includes two sections. So there's the 12 Powers, which was written by Charles Fillmore. And then there's another section in the back called Christ Enthroned in Man, written by Cora Fillmore, who was Charles's second wife. Myrtle Fillmore was significantly older than Charles, like 9 years older. So she predeceased him, and then he essentially married the secretary, who was Cora, and kept doing his ministry. So I always, when I'm going to come and talk about one of the 12 Powers, I do what I consider being a service to you all by reading the Fillmore, because sometimes Fillmore can be a little difficult to get through.
Yes.
And this particular chapter is just like Charles. He talks about the spiritual power of law and order. So it's all about divine law, and it spends a lot of time. He spends a lot of time talking about things from the Old Testament in the Bible about Moses and Pharaoh, and I've chosen not to go into that this morning. I hope that's okay with you all. You can pursue it if you like by finding your own copy of the 12
Well,
Powers.
and aren't there books of law in the Old Testament? I mean, that was like considered some of the Jewish
Yeah.
law.
Well, yes, and
Some
so
books.
that's a whole different topic.
Yeah.
Divine law. But yeah, he talks quite a bit about Moses and Pharaoh. He frequently basically is kind of talking about order as sort of the process of spiritual growth. So, that's pretty accessible. He talks about basically kind of like the step-by-step way in which we can address and resolve error in our thinking and in our way of being. And he provides some encouragement for us to persevere, because he does refer to sometimes the rate at which we make progress in our lives can be, he refers to it as snail's pace. And again, those are all things that we can relate to. The thing that I find way more entertaining is, and particularly since we had some readers' theater today, is Cora Fillmore and how she starts off her section on the power of order is talking about theater. So I thought I would read this to you, this very beginning section here. If I can get my glasses going here. They've gotten all twisted up. All right, so here's Cora Fillmore. Having gone to a theater to witness some wonderful play, how many of you for a while did little but observe the workings of the machinery auxiliary to the play? At exactly the right time, the curtain went up. At a glance, you were able to note the harmonious arrangement of the stage. The scenery and the furnishings were suitable background for the scene that was to be enacted. The different characters were introduced at the right time in just the order that would make the play most effective. Everything happened at the psychological moment. Order and system were so apparent that you could not help noticing them. The same law of order and system that is necessary to a play is necessary to right relations among all people. Were it not for order, confusion would be apparent everywhere. Law and order are back of all manifestation. So anyway, I thought that was pretty entertaining to read about theater with regards to that. And so as you all heard in my bio, I think my first career was essentially in professional theater, and which makes me pretty much the worst audience member ever. Because the moment I sit there, I'm noticing, just like she's talking about, I'm noticing all of the elements, because of course theater is a collaborative art form where you have all kinds of artists coming together to bring this experience to you. So I'm noticing the lighting, the costume, the everything. And theater is, we very often when we talk about artists, we'll think of an unstructured sort of free-flowing sort of thing, but any of those of us who are musicians or work in theater, it's extremely precise. So, when you go to see a theater show, and I don't know how many theater lovers there are in the room here or online, and you see an actor standing there, I mean, it's like they need to stand in that exact space. They need to be holding the exact correct prop at that moment. They need to be wearing the correct costumes. They need to show up on time. They need to say the things that they're supposed to say in the way that was rehearsed. The lighting needs to be, all of these things have to come together in order to have this experience. So it actually is a highly structured, creative environment. So we might notice that in our lives when we go to the theater. We also notice order in things like nature. If you find a beautiful seashell and look inside, what's those shells called nautilus that you can just sort of see all the layers. We see order when we see in springtime when the flowers start blooming, and you just sit and study a bloom and see how it's just layer and layer and layer upon layer in order to bring you this expression. And you see order. You see order in the progression of the seasons. Since here in Fredericksburg we have 4 seasons, so that sort of time of release where we are right now in autumn, a time of rest, a time of expressing, a time of relaxing, all of these things, we observe order in the world. And because it's a part of what we are in our divine nature, we resonate with that. It's like I see that and I appreciate it. We also can observe order in just that sense of what feels like the next best step. And that's really my favorite way of thinking of the power of order. I think of it as my capacity to discern the next best step with whatever it is that I'm doing. And often we will be aware of our power of order in hindsight, right? So even when we've been through some really rough stuff, and then we look back and go, oh, now I see how that made sense. I might have been in the midst of it and, just kind of dealing with whatever, but you look back and go, hey, if that hadn't happened, then I might not have met that person or made that decision or turned right instead of left. And you go back and then you observe like, oh, everything really was ordered in a divine sort of way. So we use our power of order to manage our outer human lives, right? So back to the list that I quoted from Power Up, to organize, sequence, balance, and adjust, right? So in our outer world, our human brains, whether you feel like you're an organized person or not, our human brains really do love to organize things. to organize things into piles, colors, to judge people as in good pile, not good pile, safe, not safe. Our brains really love to organize. And some people get a sense of satisfaction from organizing. Anyone here? Yes, and it is the case for me, that power of order is strong with me. And Judy, who I hope is watching, and she has, on a number of occasions, remarked her appreciation for my kind of timeliness, being organized, things like that. And I gained some satisfaction from that. And very often, this kind of organizing is preparation that we do for action, like packing to go on a trip. And we know that packing to go camping would be different than packing to go skiing or packing to go to the beach, and we just know that. We use our power of order with sequencing, just knowing what the next best step is. And like in the video, it's like, well, we all kind of know that you need to put your socks on before you put your shoes on, right? That's, a level of order that we're like, duh, I know that. But there are lots of things that we sequence. If you're someone who does crafting or cooking, you know that certain things have to happen in certain order, right? For everything to come out correctly. Even if you think about an important meeting you need to have, discussion you need to have, phone call you need to make, you might take some time to sort of sequence what would be the best order to share this information or to ask someone a question or something. Balance. How many of you find balance or achieving balance to be really important in your life? All of that has to do with order, because there can be too much or too little of this or that, of eating this or doing this activity or whatever. There can be too much or too little. And that awareness, noticing and becoming aware, and then bringing yourself back to center and balance, that is your power of order. And that capacity to really pay attention and notice when you're out of balance, because a lot of us can get so involved in, like, say, too much work, not enough play, or too much of this, not enough of that. So all that's your power of order. And then most especially to be able to adjust, because lots of us like to make plans, or even if you don't want to make plans, you make assumptions about how the world is going to be. And the thing is that the outer world is changing all the time, right? The weather changes, you change, the people you're interacting with change, everything changes. So that capacity that we have to adjust to when we're driving from one place to another, and there, the road is closed or whatever. A lot of times our GPS will do this for us these days, but back in the olden days, I bet you all can remember when you had to figure it out. You might have to pull over and look at a map. Remember those?
Paper maps.
Yes. Yeah, my children, they were like, what? What is that?
Yeah.
But this is, working around obstacles. Working around obstacles, that is our power of order. And it also kind of demonstrates for us our resiliency too, to work around obstacles and keep on heading towards whatever destination it is we're heading to. So we use our power of order in all of those ways that are recognizable in our outer lives, so in our body and affairs, as the Fillmores would say. And we also use it for managing our consciousness. So when I use that word, I'm talking about our thoughts, beliefs, attitudes, and our feelings. Basically, that kind of bubble that is your awareness, the way you perceive the world, that's your consciousness. And what we talk about in Unity is that the person who's in charge of your consciousness is you. So we use our power of order to organize our thoughts, right? We use it in sequencing. I like to think of it when we sequence beliefs, kind of like logic. So Therefore, if I say I believe that God is good all the time and is present all the time, and then I find myself or I witness a challenging situation, like if I believe this, then the logical sequence is there must be good present here. God must be present here. And I can claim that and lean into that. And it's that kind of sequencing of belief that your power of order helps you with. If this, then that, okay, I'm all right. Let me find the way in which I'm all right in whatever circumstance is showing up. When it comes to balancing, that's where our feelings really come in to inform us in our consciousness. Our feelings are very often the thing that let you know that it's like, whoa, we're really off track here. So your feelings are like, okay, this is not feel like, this is not in alignment with what we said we want to be, you know, like I want to be healthy. That's my desire. That's my intention in life. And you've gone off the tracks, and your feelings go, you know what? We said we believe this, but this is not what's happening. And your feelings let you know. And then your power of order comes in to help you kind of come back into balance. And our feelings also help us in that adjustment process that we were talking. When things change, our feelings are kind of like that antenna that's out there to guide us, like, whoa, 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 we need to shift over this way if we're gonna keep going in this direction. So we work with our thoughts, feelings, beliefs, and attitudes all the time in conjunction with our power of order. One thing that's neat, the more we study the 12 powers, is to notice how they work together. And the power of order is a great partnering power. There are some powers that are kind of, when you start looking at all the 12 powers, that are sort of leading powers, and then there are other powers that are just really good as partner powers. And order is one of those really good partnering powers. So if you think about a new project that you're thinking, what in your life, whatever it is that you want. Well, first you're working with your imagination. You're imagining, I'm gonna write a book, or I'm gonna build a chicken coop, or whatever it is. You start imagining, and then, once you get to like, I think I would really like to do this, then your power of order is right there to start, looking, okay, let's look at sequencing. What would be the first step if we were really gonna do this? What would be, how do we fit this into the rest of our lives and maintain balance? So order partners wonderfully with imagination. And just about every power partners wonderfully with love. So when we talk about our intentions, like my intention is to be healthy, I'm essentially loving on that idea of being healthy. And order comes in to support, well, how can we create an environment in which we can achieve that which we love, which is to be healthy, or to be together in relationship with someone, or whatever. Order comes in to support that whole process so that you can come into realization with whatever it is that you love. And I did mention that order is in the same part of the body as wisdom. So we talked, I can't remember how many months ago, about the power of wisdom, which in this framework we talk about as our evaluative power. So it's kind of the pros and cons, and being able to recognize what's for my highest good right now, this or this, yes, no. Wisdom is evaluating, and of course order comes right in there to help with that. So if this one, then we need to do this first, that, that kind of sequencing, balancing, that kind of thing. So, very often, whatever topic that we're talking about, I like to address what the Fillmore's called the threefold nature of humanity. So we've already been working through that. So the first level being kind of the body and the human affairs, and then the consciousness, the mind level, and then the grand level would be the spiritual level. And I'm not going to get into that today.
I'll tune in next time.
I'm going to leave you hanging, that's right, because I'll be back in 2 weeks. So a very frequent term that we hear is divine order.
Yes.
That's not what we're talking about today. That's a totally different topic.
Hmm.
So, and that is how your power of order functions in your divine nature on the spiritual level. So, when I come back on the 23rd, that's what we'll talk about. We'll talk about divine order, what divine order is, but I'll tell you what it's not. It's not what we're talking about today. So, as we get close to the end here, how can we support ourselves in making better use of our power of order? So like if I was to do a quick, survey, how many of you feel like you're doing a good job using your power of order? I'm seeing, and how many of you feel like, no, I really could use a lot more in this area? So, it's like we're in different places. So it's always important to ask, okay, how can I support myself in doing a better job of working with my power of order, listening to my power of order, collaborating with my power of order? One of the things that I find with Unity, the more I study, the more I learn, the simpler the answers become. And the answer very often in class, people are like, well, how do we do this? The answer is always the same, which is number one, have a spiritual practice. Have a time, an activity, a regular space in which you quiet your human brain and check in with your divine nature. So I try not to put a whole lot of rules on that, because for some people it might be swimming, for some people it might be gardening, for some people it might be sitting in meditation, but it's not required that you do it in a certain way, but have a spiritual practice. Use the basic teachings of Unity. I'm hoping that you all have heard of denials and affirmations, right? So I actually teach it as a 3-part process, which again would be worth a whole talk, but short version would be whatever it is that's going on in your life. Number one, acknowledge what's going on in your life. So get real with yourself about, this is hard. Or, isn't this wonderful? Isn't the sky tree? I mean, I don't know about you all, but last week we had so many gray days in a row. So like, how big can this storm be? Like, how many days can it? And then all of a sudden there was blue sky, and I was in the midst of the Eastern Region Conference, and I was on a break, and I was like, my activity for that break was just go on the front porch and look at the blue sky like I had never seen it before. So acknowledging in that way. So whatever it is that you have going on, acknowledge first in your human life what's going on. Are you angry? Are you blissfully happy? Are you relaxed? Whatever it is. And then if you look at whatever beliefs and attitudes might be showing up from your past, like you're not good enough, work on releasing those thoughts. That would be the denial part. Kind of like pulling the weeds out of your garden, the things you don't want growing there. I don't need to be growing this plant in my garden anymore that says I'm not smart enough. I don't give any power to that. And then put an affirmation in its place. So use this process of acknowledge, release, and affirm. Use it on a regular basis. That's how you can support yourself in many things, but today we're talking about the power of order. And make sure that as a part of your spiritual practice, whatever it is, that you're spending some time in the silence. So when we're working on things like acknowledge, release, and affirm, a lot of times that shows up in the form of prayers, right? Which can be words, sentences we've put together, things, mantras that we're repeating, and that's kind of like the talking part. Make sure that your spiritual practice includes a listening part, and that would be time in the silence. And that can be, a minute. That can be the space of a breath. It can be 20 minutes if you're really good at it. I know when I try to do that, I'm kind of floating in and out, but you just kind of come back and get quiet. And the other thing that we can do, and this is something that was in the little play that you saw, is recognize the softer side of the power of order. So, one of the things that they kept coming around to, is Judy's character was someone who clearly has an appeal for like making plans, whatever, and it's like she's done everything she needs to do, and then she's like, I don't know how to act now. Has
Right.
anyone ever reached that point where it's like you're so into doing, taking care of things, and then have you ever reached that moment where it's like everything is complete and you're like, I don't know how to act.
Did that really happen?
So
I can relax now, yeah.
your power of order is present in those moments too, because maybe the organizing that you need to do is more on the quiet side of being in your spiritual practice to discern what's your highest good. Maybe that's the kind of organizing you need to be doing rather than arranging the kitchen cabinets or something. Recognize with sequencing that maybe the next best step is to give yourself a break. Is to go and sit outside and look at the sky. Make yourself a cup of coffee. Maybe that is what the next best step is, rather than doing, is just to breathe. Learn to observe your life with more clarity so that you can take better steps to bring yourself into balance. Just look at how you're using your time during the day. I've seen this frequently with regards to time spent on social media and practices that people encourage. Just literally, it really is a project for one, take a day or two and literally try to log your activities all day and look at whether or not that time that you're using is actually in alignment with what your life intention is. And see how, it's like, oh, I thought I was only spending 5 minutes on social media. Well, when I did my log, it actually turned out to be close to an hour, and that kind of thing. So just use your power of order to observe what's going on. When you're engaged in doing, you don't notice how out of balance you've gotten until you get sick or you hurt yourself or some relationship falls apart because you've been in doing rather than observing. So look at your power of order as that capacity to sort of observe, where am I with, too much of this, not enough of that. I have someone I love is saying, I don't get to spend any time with you. Like,
Uh-oh.
And lean into your capacity to adjust, right? So when you encounter an obstacle, which we all do, give yourself credit for, wow, it was a hard day, but look at all the things that I did to adjust and to still, get whatever it is that I needed to get done. Give yourself credit for that. Notice how much, look back at your accomplishments of, I wanted to do this, I accomplished it. Give yourself credit for all the adjusting that we all do every day. As simple as, I wanted to get this at the store, they don't have that. What else can I get in? Give yourself credit for that. I mean, basically, after all, you've made it through every single one of your hardest days, haven't you? Here you are, look at that.
That's
Yay.
great.
So celebrate that. And even if, like me, when, the power of order comes up, I immediately start thinking about these videos from the House
Right.
of Commons. You should look them up because they're very funny. I think of that voice of the Speaker of the House of Commons coming into, into my consciousness to get order. So when I find myself just, frustrated, sad, whatever, I will call my power of order. So just know that you're in charge of all this stuff going on in your consciousness. So you can call order just like the Speaker of the House. You can do it yourself. So that is it for today. And so we're going to move into a time of meditation. One thing that's lovely about this book that we're studying every week on Thursday evenings And we talked about it earlier, you can go on the website, look at the calendar, and you can click and see where we are. The sections of reading are like maybe 2 pages, maybe 4 at the most. And each one of the chapters ends with a meditation, so I'm gonna use that meditation for us today. So, if you would, take a couple of deep breaths and just do whatever you need to do to get a little more comfortable, a little more balanced in your seat. Quiet the mind and open the heart. I'm reading here from Divine Audacity. Assuming a familiar posture supportive of meditation, I focus my attention on the splendid order in my body temple. Bone, muscle, skin, vortexes of nerves and energy, all organized for physical vitality and strength. Breath flowing in and out effortlessly. Heart beating rhythmically, steadily, faithfully. I celebrate order. Concentrating my attention within my body, behind my navel, I activate my body's center for order. I shine the verdant green light of order around my digestive organs and throughout the integrated, linked, and well-ordered systems of my body. Order is my name and my nature. I am the power of order, by which I connect with my innate sense of direction. I naturally attune to the magnificent source, the one mind from which all ideas flow. I catch divine ideas and bring them into manifestation by the power of order. I am the adjusting power of order, easily sensing where to place my attention, adjust my mindset, or correct my course of action. I am the evolving power of order, awakened to my ever unfolding consciousness. I incorporate the best of my past into my present and reach naturally toward a fuller, more enlightened future. By the power of order, I follow the clear path. I go through the open door. I choose an orderly course of thought and action. I bring about order moment by moment, choice by choice. And as we reflect on all that, we move into a few moments in the stillness together. And as we bring our focus once again to the present moment, to the feeling of your body sitting in the chair, your feet upon the floor, feeling of the air against your skin, go ahead and allow your outer eyes to drift closed, to drift open, and we will close our time in meditation with an affirmation. Listen to this affirmation. I order my life with ease and grace, and I am grateful. Say it with me this time, folks. I order my life with ease and grace, and I am grateful. Let's say it again. I order my life with ease and grace, and I am grateful. One last time, opening the eyes, coming